I knew something was wrong the second he looked at me. His eyes were too sharp, too desperate, too full of fear for a man dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my entire yearly rent. I was holding 2 plates of pancakes when he leaned across the diner counter and grabbed the edge so hard his knuckles turned white. "Please help me. They poisoned me." The words came out rough and broken, like he was fighting just to breathe. For a moment I thought I misheard him. People in diners say strange things at 3 in the morning, but then I saw the panic in his emerald eyes, the rash spreading up his neck, the sweat running down his temple. My heart skipped because I had seen this before. My little brother gets the same look when his allergies flare. The plates slipped from my hands and crashed to the floor. The diner lights buzzed overhead, ugly and too bright, making everything feel unreal. Rain slammed against the windows behind him, beating loud enough to drown out the low chatter of truckers and night shift workers who barely glanced our way. Nobody noticed that a stranger in a perfect suit was dying right in front of me. "EpiPen." He wheezed the word like it hurt to speak. His hand shook as he pulled a metal pen from his pocket, but it slipped from his fingers and rolled under the counter, out of reach. My whole body went cold. Without thinking, I sprinted to the back, ignoring my manager yelling my name. I tore through my backpack under the coat rack, fingers shaking so hard I almost dropped it, but I found it. My brother's spare injector. Thank God. I ran back and dropped to my knees beside the stranger. His breathing was shallow, his lips starting to turn gray. His expensive cologne mixed with the smell of coffee and grease, and it somehow made everything feel more terrifying. "I've got you." My voice sounded steadier than I felt as I drove the injector through his pant leg into his thigh. He gasped. His whole body jerked, then sagged against me as air finally pushed into his lungs again. His eyes searched my face, confused but alive. He looked at me like he couldn't figure out why a soaked, exhausted waitress with messy hair and a cheap uniform was the one saving him. Before he could speak, the diner doors slammed open. 2 men in dark suits walked in, the kind who didn't smile and didn't belong anywhere near a cheap diner at 3 a.m. Their eyes swept the room like hunting dogs searching for prey. When they saw him on the floor, their posture changed. Their hands slipped inside their jackets. The stranger's fingers closed around my wrist with surprising strength. He leaned close, his voice barely a whisper against my ear. "They're here to finish the job." A chill ran down my spine as he pressed something cold into my palm. A key, a gold tag with an address engraved on it. I didn't think. If I thought, I would freeze. Instead, I grabbed him under the arm and pulled him to his feet. He was heavy, and he leaned on me hard, breathing uneven and weak. We pushed through the kitchen doors, past a furious cook and my confused manager, and burst into the dark alley behind the diner. Rain soaked us instantly. A sleek black car sat at the alley entrance, its windows tinted, engine off but ready. The stranger stumbled toward it, clutching his chest. "I'm Ethan." His breath shuddered as he pressed keys into my wet hands. "Ethan Gray. I need you to drive. They'll be watching for me, not you." I stared at the keys, at the car, at him, Ethan Gray. A name I'd heard only in whispered rumors. The Gray Syndicate. One of the most dangerous mafia families on the West Coast. This had to be a nightmare. But the kitchen door burst open behind us. The 2 men stormed into the alley, guns raised. That made the decision for me. I shoved Ethan into the passenger seat, slid behind the wheel, and turned the key. The engine roared to life. Tires screeched as I tore out of the alley, my hands trembling as I gripped the steering wheel. "Who are you running from?" My voice shook as I took a sharp turn onto Market Street. Ethan leaned back, eyes heavy but alert. "The Mendoza family. He swallowed hard. "I'm the head of the Gray Syndicate. And someone just tried to kill me in the most embarrassing way possible." My heart dropped. Rain blurred the windshield as I drove through the streets of San Francisco with a Mafia boss bleeding and breathing beside me. A Mafia boss I had just saved. A Mafia boss whose enemies had watched my face. "Take the bridge exit," he ordered, pulling out a phone and typing something fast. My compound is across the bay. It's secure. My life, my job, my brother, my future, all of it felt like it was slipping through my fingers like rainwater on glass. I drove anyway, the wheels humming against the soaked pavement as we climbed the ramp toward the Bay Bridge. "You could have left me there," Ethan murmured. I didn't look at him. "I'm studying to be a nurse." I couldn't. Lights from the city reflected in the wet road as fog rolled over the bay ahead of us. The bridge stretched out long and dark, disappearing into mist. I didn't know it yet, but crossing that bridge was the moment everything changed. The moment I stepped into his world. The moment there was no going back. The farther we drove across the bridge, the more I realized there was no turning back. The city lights faded behind us, swallowed by fog that wrapped around the car like a warning. My hands were tight on the steering wheel, knuckles pale, heart pounding in my ears. I kept checking the mirrors even though Ethan had told me we weren't being followed. I didn't believe it. Not yet. Ethan's breathing was steadier, but he still looked pale. His suit was soaked from the rain and wrinkled from collapsing on the diner floor. Even like this, he carried an air of control, like nothing could touch him for long. "You knew exactly what to do," he said suddenly, his voice calm but edged with curiosity. "Why?" I swallowed. "My brother has severe allergies." I've handled his reactions since I was 15. Ethan watched me as if studying my soul through the windshield reflection. I couldn't read his expression. Maybe he was deciding if saving him was a mistake. Maybe he was deciding if letting me live was a mistake. The fog thickened as we left the bridge, and Ethan pointed to a narrow road leading into the hills. "Turn there. My compound is hard to reach. That's the point." Driving felt like moving into another world. Houses turned into mansions, then into massive gated estates hidden behind trees and stone walls. This part of the bay didn't belong to ordinary people like me. It belonged to the kind of men who had private armies instead of neighbors. "Slow down." He lifted a weak hand. Iron gate on the right. I saw it only when we were nearly on top of it. The gates were tall, black, and carved with a crest shaped like a wolf. They opened on their own as the car approached. My heart hammered harder. Inside was a long driveway that curved through manicured gardens lit with soft golden lights. The house at the end wasn't a house. It was a fortress, large enough to swallow my entire apartment building and still have space left. I parked where Ethan directed, and before I could even step out, men in black suits surrounded us. Their hands hovered near their jackets. Their eyes scanned me like a threat. "Easy," Ethan said, stepping out with more strength than before. "She saved my life. She's under my protection. Under my protection." The words hit me like a wave. I didn't know whether to feel relief or fear. The tallest man stepped forward. "Jackson, we lost contact with you. We feared the worst." "I'm fine," Ethan said dismissively. "Bring Dr. Hale. And get a room ready for Miss Carter." Miss Carter? No one had called me that since my senior year of high school. I followed Ethan inside, feeling small and out of place. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, walls covered in art that probably cost more than I would earn in my entire lifetime. My wet waitress uniform dripped on the floor, and I tried to hide it by pulling my arms close. A stern woman with silver hair stepped forward. "Miss Peters, she'll take you to a room," Ethan said. Before she led me away, he turned back to me. "Hazel." His voice softened. "You're safe now." Safe didn't feel like the right word, but I followed Miss Peters up a wide staircase anyway. The room she brought me to was bigger than my whole apartment. A huge bed with silk sheets, a window overlooking the bay, a closet full of clothes that weren't mine. All I could do was stare. "Mr. Gray insists you stay here tonight," she said. "Returning home would put you at risk." I opened my mouth to argue, but she had already turned away. My hands trembled as I cleaned myself up in a bathroom that looked like a spa. When I stepped out in silk pajamas I didn't feel worthy of wearing, a knock sounded at my door. Ethan. His suit was fresh. His hair was dry. He looked back to full strength, but his eyes told another story. Exhaustion. Anger. Something darker. "I brought you food," he said, stepping inside and setting a tray on a table near the window. "You haven't eaten." I didn't move at first. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust any of this. Finally, I sat down, picking up a strawberry, just so I had something to hold. "Why am I here?" I asked quietly. Ethan exhaled slowly and leaned against the window frame. "Because the men who tried to kill me saw your face, Hazel. And the Mendoza family doesn't let witnesses walk away." The strawberry slipped from my fingers and rolled across the table. "My brother!" My voice cracked. "Amy, I have to go home. He needs me." Ethan shook his head. "He isn't alone. My men are watching him. He's safe. You don't know him." I felt my breath speed up. "He has asthma. He panics easily." Ethan stepped forward, his expression softening in a way I didn't expect. "Hazel, if I let you go home, the Mendozas will take you, and they will use your brother against you. You saved my life tonight. Now I have to save yours." I stared at him, my heart pounding so hard it almost hurt. "I didn't choose this," I whispered. "Neither did I," he said quietly. For a moment, we just looked at each other, the room silent except for the rain tapping against the windows. His eyes held something I didn't expect from a Mafia boss. Respect. And something deeper I wasn't ready to name. But before I could say anything, a man burst into the room. "Boss, we found the leak. It came from inside." Ethan straightened instantly, the softness vanishing from his face, replaced by cold focus. "Get the car ready," he ordered. "And bring her." My stomach twisted. "Bring me where?" Ethan turned to me, eyes sharp as steel, to the secondary location. "Until we find who tried to kill me. You're coming with me." My life changed the moment he stumbled into my diner. But I didn't know it would change even more the moment I agreed to get into his car. The drive to the secondary location felt nothing like the frantic escape from the diner. This time, the SUV was armored, dark, and silent inside. The windows were tinted so heavily the world outside looked like shadows sliding across deeper shadows. Jackson drove. 2 more men sat in the front seat. I sat beside Ethan in the back, my hands squeezed together in my lap so tightly my knuckles ached. Ethan didn't speak. He stared straight ahead, jaw tight, eyes hard. Whatever softness I saw earlier had disappeared behind steel walls. He wasn't a man anymore. He was a threat wrapped in a suit. And I was sitting beside him. When the car finally pulled up to a huge concrete structure overlooking the ocean, I thought it was another fortress. Sharp edges, cold stone, massive windows that reflected crashing waves far below. It didn't look like a home. It looked like a place built to survive war. Inside, the air smelled like clean metal and ocean wind. Guards stood at every corner. Cameras followed every movement. Ethan didn't hesitate. He walked through the halls with long strides, and the men around him moved like shadows. He glanced back at me once. "Stay close, Hazel." I followed him into a huge open living space with walls of glass that made the sky and sea feel endless. For a moment, the beauty stole my breath. But the moment didn't last long. A woman with a sleek ponytail approached Ethan. "The secure line is ready, sir. And Dr. Mercer is waiting to check your recovery." Ethan nodded, then turned to me. "Make yourself comfortable. We'll be here until we find the traitor." Comfortable wasn't possible. Not with guards outside every door. Not with the ocean crashing against rocks far below like thunder. Not with the knowledge that a Mafia family wanted me dead. Still, I wandered through the house, unsure where I belonged. I found a library tucked behind a hallway. Floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with books. The room was warm and quiet, the kind of space I would love in another life. I curled into a window seat with one of the books, trying to steady my breathing. But peace didn't stay long. Voices echoed down the hall. Angry voices. I inched closer to the doorway, heart pounding. 3 of my men dead in a raid. Ethan's voice was sharp and furious. "And you're telling me we still don't know who sold us out?" Another voice answered, calm, precise. "Sir, the evidence points to someone in your inner circle." My stomach flipped. This wasn't just danger. This was betrayal from someone close to him. Then, I heard something that made my blood run cold. "What about the waitress?" I gripped the doorframe, holding my breath. "Have we verified her story?" There was a long pause, long enough for fear to crawl up my spine. Then Ethan spoke. "Her story checks out. She's not involved. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time." I let out a shaky breath and backed away quietly. I didn't want him to know I heard. I didn't want anyone to know. 3 long days passed in that strange limbo. Guards watched every exit. Ethan disappeared into meetings that left the whole house tense. Every time we crossed paths, he looked at me with the same unreadable intensity. Not anger, not suspicion, something deeper. On the 4th morning, I opened my door and found a stack of medical textbooks on the floor. Nursing guides, anatomy books, the exact ones I'd been saving to buy. My chest tightened. Ethan had done that. Without saying a word. I found him later in the library, staring out the window. When he turned, I saw something new in his eyes. Pain, anger, and a hint of sadness. "We found the traitor," he said quietly. "His name was Paul, my cousin." I felt my heart drop. I didn't know him, but betrayal like that, it leaves scars. "I'm sorry, Ethan," I said softly. He let out a harsh breath. "He sold me out to the Mendozas, gave them my schedule, even my allergy information. He wanted my father's business, and he wanted me gone." Silence stretched between us, heavy, sharp. "What happens now?" I finally asked. Ethan turned toward me, and for once he didn't hide behind that cold mask. "Now I finish this. Then you go home." Home. The word felt strange after everything that happened. Could I go back to flipping pancakes like nothing happened? "I don't think I can forget this," I whispered. He stepped closer, not touching me, but close enough to feel the warmth of him. "Try," he murmured. Before I could speak, Jackson appeared at the doorway. "Sir, we found Paul. He's at the downtown penthouse." "But it might be a trap." Ethan nodded once, cold, final. "Prepare the car." Then he looked at me. "You're coming." My breath caught. "Why me?" "Because Paul doesn't know your face. He won't suspect you. And I need someone on the inside." I stared at him, stunned. "You want me to help trap your cousin?" But Ethan didn't answer with words. He showed me something on his phone, a grainy image taken just hours ago. My brother, Jamie, entering our apartment building, followed by 2 men I didn't recognize. A choking sound escaped my throat. "The Mendozas have been watching him," Ethan said quietly. "They plan to use him against you, against me." My legs almost gave out. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I had men guarding him, and because I need you focused." Then he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Hazel, this ends tonight, but I can't end it without you." Fear mixed with something else in my chest, a pull toward this dangerous man I shouldn't feel anything for. But one thing was clear: if my brother was in danger, I would walk through fire to save him. "Tell me what to do," I whispered. Ethan's eyes softened for one brief second. "We get Paul. Then we get your brother." He reached out and touched my hand gently. "You're not alone in this." For the first time since the diner, I believed it. I barely recognized myself when I looked in the mirror of the hotel suite. The woman staring back at me wasn't the tired waitress from the diner anymore. My hair was styled, my makeup flawless, and the sleek black dress hugged my body like it belonged to another life entirely. My hands trembled as I smoothed the fabric. Ethan stood behind me, reflected in the mirror. His eyes didn't linger on my curves or the dress. They lingered on my fear. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. But we both knew that wasn't true. My brother's face was burned into my mind, terrified and tired in that security photo. If walking into danger meant getting him back, then I had no choice. I straightened my shoulders. Tell me the plan again. Ethan moved closer, his voice low and steady as he went over everything one last time. You go in as an investor. You get close. You slip the tracker in his pocket. You walk out. He paused. I'll be watching you the entire time. That last line grounded me more than the plan itself. A car dropped me at the restaurant, an expensive, glittering place with chandeliers and gold-trimmed menus. Every table was covered in white linens, every patron dressed like royalty. I stepped inside with my chin high and my heart pounding hard enough to shake the room. Paul Gray was exactly where Ethan said he'd be. Alone. Waiting. He looked like Ethan. Same dark hair, same strong jaw. But where Ethan's presence demanded respect, Paul's demanded attention. His smile was too smooth, his eyes too empty. Mr. Gray? I asked, offering my hand like we rehearsed. Amanda Pierce. My firm reached out about potential partnerships. He lit up instantly. Even stood to pull out my chair. I can always make time for a beautiful woman interested in business, he said. My stomach twisted, but I smiled politely. Inside, I kept repeating Ethan's words. You're safe. I'm watching. Wine was poured. Small talk flowed. He flirted. I pretended to blush. And just as we practiced, I let my clutch accidentally fall open, scattering items across the table. Paul leaned forward to help me gather them. That was my moment. The tracker slipped into his inner jacket pocket so seamlessly I barely felt it leave my fingers. Minutes later, I excused myself with a promise of scheduling a real meeting soon. My legs almost gave out the second I stepped outside. A car pulled up instantly. The back door opened. Ethan. The second I got in, he reached out and grabbed my shaking hand. It's done, he asked. I nodded, my breath unsteady. A small smile touched his lips, proud, relieved, and something else I couldn't name. Jackson's voice came through the radio seconds later. He's moving. Headed toward the Marina District. Straight to the Mendozas, Ethan said. Back at the operations suite, everything shifted. Men moved fast, checking weapons, mapping routes. This wasn't business. This was war. I kept scanning the screens for any sign of my brother. Then, Jackson stormed in with a tablet. Sir. His voice cracked slightly. They have the boy. My heart dropped. I rushed forward and grabbed the tablet. And there he was, my brother Hammy, being walked into the same building Paul just entered. A scream tore out of me before I could stop it. Ethan turned toward me. For the first time since I met him, fear flashed across his face. Hazel. Listen to me. No. My voice shook. I'm going with you. He needs me. You said he panics under stress. He needs to hear my voice. Ethan pressed his lips together. His eyes darkened with conflict, anger, and something softer. It's too dangerous. He's my family. I'm going. A long moment passed. His jaw clenched, his breath steady, his stare locked on mine. Then he nodded. Get her a vest, he ordered Jackson, and stay glued to her side. The ride to the Mendoza compound was silent, except for the hum of weapons being checked. My heart threatened to beat out of my chest, but I held my inhaler for Jamie in my hand like a lifeline. Once we breached the perimeter, the team moved like shadows. Jackson guided me through a side entrance as gunfire erupted deeper in the building. The sound of it shook me to my bones. Then I heard a different sound. Hazel? A small, terrified voice. My brother. I ran toward the sound before anyone could stop me. Ethan was already there, crouched beside Jamie with a hand on his shoulder. Jamie clutched his inhaler, breathing fast and uneven. You came, he whispered. Always, I said, kneeling in front of him. Always. But there was no time. Gunfire grew louder. Jackson signaled for us to move. Ethan stood, weapon raised. Go with them. I'll finish this. I grabbed his arm, panic slicing through me. Don't, please. His hand came up and touched my cheek with a gentleness that didn't fit this violent world. "I'll find you when it's over," he said softly. Then he turned and disappeared into the smoke. Jackson pulled us through the corridor as the building shook with explosions. Every step felt like running through a nightmare. But Hamy's breathing steadied when I held his hand. Outside, the SUV was waiting. Guards surrounded us. Hamy climbed in first, and I followed, turning back toward the burning compound. "Where is he?" I whispered. No answer. Minutes felt like years until, at last, we heard the thumping of helicopter blades. A black aircraft descended by the cliff. My breath caught when the door slid open. Ethan stepped out, blood on his shirt, a cut across his cheek, smoke on his clothes. Alive. He walked toward me with slow, steady steps, as if the air between us was something heavy to push through. "It's over," he said simply. I didn't think. I just threw myself into his arms. His hands closed around my back, strong and warm, and for the first time since the diner, my fear faded. After that night, life shifted in ways I never expected. Amy recovered in the guest wing of Ethan's compound. Ethan's organization changed. Less violence. More legitimate work. I saw the man behind the Mafia title. One evening, as we sat in the library, Ethan placed an envelope in my hands. "Your nursing school application was accepted," he said. "Full scholarship, no strings." I stared at him, my voice barely a whisper. "Why would you do that?" He took my hand gently. His thumb brushed my skin like he was memorizing the feel of me. "Because you saved my life, Hazel, and because, somewhere along the way, you became part of it." My heart stopped, then started again, faster. "What happens now?" I asked. He stepped closer, his forehead almost touching mine. His voice dropped to a soft, vulnerable murmur. "Whatever you want. I'm done pretending I don't feel this. I didn't want to pretend either." So I reached for his hand, and he held on like he never planned to let go.